Me and the boys was sitting around drinking, we was talking about things that we was thinking, when all of a sudden what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble, rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I had a drink and I ordered 3, and I staggered back to do it all again. Then we made an oath on a rum and coke with the best intention, I'm sure you know, that we would stop this living in excess. We're gonna have one more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more.
So on this episode of Garage Beers, I'm going to be talking about knives. Now, I am definitely not a knife aficionado, or whatever that word is, or any real expert on a lot of things. But the one thing I can talk about is my experience with knives. I spent 17 years in the infantry, so the most useful tool that I always had was my little pocket knife. I would take one with me everywhere. Now, I'm not really the guy, when I was using a knife, I wasn't the guy that would spend an insane amount of money, because I was using a knife for a lot of things. A little bit of cutting, but I used it as a pry bar, a chisel, I had to cut wire, whatever it was. If the knife was just kind of the most versatile tool. So with that, I would never really spend a ton of money on it, because I was, taking apart a machine gun and I have to take off the gas regulator. I've got broken tons and tons of tips and knives. And if I would have broke a tip off a really expensive knife, it would have pissed me off. Meanwhile, a $20, $40 knife, you know what? As long as it fits in my pocket, it'll be great. So for the most part, what I can tell people when it comes to getting a knife, depending on what you can use it for, everyone should always have a knife, whether, your acreage, you're a hunter, fisher, you like to go camping. I always just keep a knife in my car. You never know when you're going to need it, and they're always handy to have. And for most people, just getting a cheap knife, as long as it's, decent enough make so it's going to be safe. If you're going to get a folding knife, make sure it has a good lock on it so it's not going to, not stay out in the position you want it to, because even a crappy knife will cut your whatever off. So for the most part, that's what I used. I mean, we had our bayonets we would use, and I would use that for everything but a bayonet. But something that can be said is, you get what you pay for. So if you're going to get a knife, spend a little bit of money, there's some things you want to look out for, especially if you're going to be using it for a lot more knifey stuff. So these 3 knives here, these are pretty much what I use all the time. The 2 on the right, those are the ones I've been using the most. One, just a regular good old filleting knife. For what I recommend, for how hard they are to actually maintain a decent edge on. I know some people if you figure out how to do it, it's great. Anyone that's actually tried the sharpening a fillet knife, because they are that bendy, you can really screw up that edge, and it just doesn't really work out. So I know a lot of guys will literally just buy a new one because they're so cheap. But I mean, after a while, I don't know, I get attached to things. So what I got for this filleting knife, it's just a nice leather sheath. I usually treat it. I got this neat little beeswax mink oil. That'll do the same thing, just to keep the leather soft and so it doesn't start to fray and break apart. Now for the actual knife itself, it's got a nice handle, it's got a little bit of the texture here to kind of keep grip on it. The big thing, make sure you find one. A lot of times the rubber handles are good too. Just remember, you're gonna get like fish scales and guts and all that. It's gonna get slick. I also use this beeswax stuff, and I even use that on the handle. Helps keep the wood from drying out and cracking. But you know what? Everyone, get a filleting knife. If you don't fish, start fishing, and get a decent filleting knife that you can use over and over. My favorite knife, and the one that I probably had the longest, is just a good old-fashioned buck knife. My dad got me this. He got it for cheap. It was on sale at old Cabela's, and I've used this for pretty much everything. Same thing with the case. It used to be all black, but it got really gross, and when I was cleaning it, half the black came off, so I just keep it treated with the same beeswax. But I've used this from breasting ducks, field dressing deer. Whenever we're butchering the pigs, this is our everything knife. Right from when it comes to taking off the head, it's got the nice point on it. I've heard some guys actually file it down because it's too aggressive a point, but I find for getting in between those vertebrae, it's strong enough I can go ahead and I can be mean to it. I don't want to get a knife that's going to be a mantelpiece because I want a knife that I can use. And this guy, if you kind of look, you can see like on the edge there from like when I have gone to sharpen it. To be honest, it really keeps an edge really nice. It's heavy, so it's good for getting through bone, the heavier duty jobs. If you're into like the batoning stuff like that, where you're gonna hit, you can see that little edge right up top there. It's gonna chew up whatever stock you're using baton or whatever stick you can use the baton is gonna chew the living hell out of. But you know what? This knife is great from all around. I've never broken the tip off it. Somehow my wife finally was able to take a chip out of the blade, and so I took it in to get sharpened just because the hours it would have taken me to get it out. Meanwhile, him to just give a few passes on their actual machine, their belt sander, and you know what? They put a nice edge on it. But I haven't had many issues. Like had to smooth my carta. It doesn't really slip out of my hand, but I did find like when I'm field dressing or first finer work, it is big. It is big and heavy, so it's great for, I mean, you can actually, it's got that weight, so you can actually do that heavy duty stuff. But for the most part, outside of its bulkiness, I've used that for everything. I love it. It can fit on your belt real nice. A lot of times I won't usually keep that on my belt because it's big and heavy, but I'll still have it somewhere like readily available. I have it on my backpack or readily accessible, just because it is kind of big and in the way. This little guy, this is now my new favorite guy because it's a lot smaller. It's a cold Steel FinnHawk. Again, if you notice, they're all it's a fixed blade. The locking blades are nice just because they can fit in your pocket, and it's great for just an all-around thing. I won't spend a lot of money on one of those because what I am going to use it for, if I need something to pinch, like for example the one I keep in my car, I literally keep like a $20 gas station special. They don't hold an edge as well. Like this guy, we've literally just finished doing a pig with it, and there's not a mark in the blade or on the edge, and it's still sharp as all hell. It started to lose a little bit of its fine edge, but I mean, that's from cutting through thick skin, going across bone. I just went and cracked all the ribs when I was cutting that gun down to the spine, and it can still cut through real nice. But this guy, I got this just because I wanted a really nice, good, solid knife that was, just that little bit smaller. So this is a cold Steel FinnHawk, and it's nice. It's got that rubberized kind of handle. It's got textured. When I was butchering the pigs, didn't have any real issues. It stayed in there real nice. It's got a super sharp blade, and right now, the little bits, it's, if anything, like when I'm trimming meat off, especially like close to the spine, close to bones, and I still hit a bone every now and then. If anyone who's ever field dressed or, you're doing any kind of butchering, you'll know as soon as you start hitting bones, you're going to start dulling. This, not an issue. The cartilage, it would slice right through, so if anything, I had to take the cartilage out for the stuff that I want to grind because I don't want to get the chunky bits in there, and it's been great. I put a little lanyard on myself, just a little bit of cheap paracord. It's not real paracord, but it's awesome. For the actual fitting in the sheath, it fits in. You actually have to pull it out, so it's not going to accidentally fall out. I kind of just my own little thing right here. I just got extra duct tape on it, so if I ever want to rip a strip off for little kind of things, I have a bunch. And underneath there's paracord too, where I just did a couple wraps up and down in case I need a little bit of paracord. Well, I went with tactical blue because this one I will wear on my belt or put it in my hunting pants. It's just whenever you do put it down, for example, field dressing, camouflage is nice until you put it down in grass and you have a hard time finding it. So that blue, that's there for a reason. So that when I put it down when I'm field dressing, I'll be able to actually find it. So when it comes to knives, you know what? You can see a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people that have really nice... I've never been in the anti-tank knife game where you need a huge honking thing. They're big, they're bulky. I don't know what most people can use it for. Unless you're going to actually get into actual machete, then you know what? To each their own, go at it. My opinion, you really only need about one or two knives. If you're just using something to... like that, just that multi-tool, I wouldn't bother spending the money on it because you're just going to go ahead and hack it up. However, if you want a decent knife that you always kind of want on your belt or around, I'd recommend getting something like this little guy because it's not that big. You can put it on your belt. You're not gonna get crazy looks at it in the mall if you're like me and you do wear a knife in the mall because you just left to go. You have to go on a shopping run after doing something outside. This little guy's great. It's got a tang. It's not a full tang. I guess they call it a rat tail. Either way, a lot of great reviews. I'm telling you, from the little bit I've used it, it's been great. and something like that would be perfect. If you want like a decent bush knife, I mean, there's a lot out there. My experience though, for these guys go on sale all the time for how much they cost and what you get. I mean, that design's been around for about forever and a day, and there's a reason. So if you're going to spend some money on a decent knife, don't break the bank unless that's really your thing. Here's just my opinion of what I would do, and that's pretty much all I'd really recommend to everyone else. Have a good filleting knife, one that's going to last, and you know, you can go ahead and do like after a full day of fishing, or say like even a weekend, without even have to take care of the blade. And then, you know what, get a decent knife sharpening kit, or you know what, it is a science. Go ahead, and if you don't want to do it yourself, it's usually cheap to get someone else to sharpen it, and why not? I do that now just because the hours it takes me to get the perfect blade on it, a guy will take 5 minutes, and it was about $5 a blade for the guy to do unless I seriously mess it up. But that's just my take on knives. One thing I can't stress enough though is just how useful a knife is. You know, here on the acreage, you never know. I'm cutting rope all the time. You know, sometimes I like to, you know, the boy, he likes to whittle. So do that. Take good care of your knives. Keep them sharp. If you don't have a sharp knife, you are going to cut yourself. It will be not sharp enough to cut what you're trying to get through, but it will be sharp enough to get through your skin. And also, as what I've learned through the military training, and they showed us all the cool videos of guys' knife wounds from not sharp blades. Keep it sharp, just so you heal yourself better. You are going to cut yourself. That's just the nature of the game. Plus, that's how you know your knife is sharp. It goes through everything real quick and accidentally gets your finger. With that, be careful. Cut away. Take good care of them. Keep them sharp. The cases, take care of them because it protects your blade. And yeah, make sure you find what you're looking for. Go on, do some research, get what you want. And you know what? Shop around. No point spending a lot of money on something that you could have got it for cheaper. And don't spend a lot of money on something you're not going to use. This is for all those people who carry those anti-tank knives. I don't know what the hell you're actually going to use it for, but good on you if you ever do find that use. That's all I got. Short video, but it's valuable. See you guys next time.